congressman in the 30s and 40s. He was a New Deal Democrat because he was a poor white guy in Southwest Pennsylvania, and the Democratic Party was the working man's party to him. That party ceased to exist a long time ago. This is the party of a handful of elitists and oligarchs. And the bottom line is they don't care. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. You are irrelevant. You can die. You can starve. You can be murdered, raped, abused. It doesn't matter.
Let me just stay with you here for a minute, because you are the former head of the CIA's weapon of mass destruction terrorism unit. Can you elaborate on the major factors that have contributed to both the rise and the fall of the CIA's influence in global affairs?
Well, simultaneously you have I'll just use the term politicization of the CIA that has intensified. It's been underway for some time, but particularly since the Obama administration has intensified. And so you have the CIA involved in all kinds of things it shouldn't be involved in, right?
Yeah.
CIA is supposed to collect intelligence and conduct covert action when the president tells it to. Otherwise, it has no political function, and it's not a policy entity, but yet it's up to its eyeballs in that all the time now. Simultaneously, it has lost its capacity to do what it's supposed to do. In the news these days, we're talking a lot about the status of the Iranian nuclear program and whether the Iranians actually already have nuclear weapons or are about to acquire them. I would bet you a large sum of money that if you were in a position to sit down at CIA and say, tell me all your sources that you have inside the Iranian nuclear weapons program, that the answer would be, we don't have a single boy inside the Iranian nuclear weapons program. We don't actually really know at all what its status is. And I think you would go target by target. So it's terrifying. They're doing a lot of stuff they shouldn't be doing. And meanwhile, they're not doing what they get paid to do.
Michael Yon, you're a seasoned war correspondent, man. You put your life on the line every day. How do you perceive the evolution of the CIA's role in conflict zones over the past few decades? And what are the things that you're seeing every day in a different kind of war zone that's going to really have an incredible impact on weakening the infrastructures that we've had in place for some time here in our country?
As Sam alluded to, the only reason I even exist doing the things I do is because the CIA is incompetent and the media is incompetent, or they're completely compromised. For instance, the amount of time I've taken 50 or 60 people down into the Darien Gap between Colombia and Panama, including congressmen, intelligence people, big media, that sort of thing. We put it on the map specifically to work to close it down. And the incoming Panamanian president put the Darien Gap onto his platform to get elected, and now he is elected. And the reason that he was able to get elected on that platform in the Darien Gap was because of the work that we do. That should be the work of our government, but since they don't do it, private citizens have to get out here and do it. The Darien Gap is one of the main invasion routes to the United States. And when you opened up Armstrong, the United Nations, using the IOM, the International Organization for Migration, they're the main engine of the invasions, IOM, the UN IOM. They hand out condoms. They hand out actual rape kits. I have a couple of them. And those rape kits contain female condoms, male condoms, those abortion after day pills or whatever, and a little flashlight. And if you go out into the jungle in the Darien Gap, the jungle floor is littered with condoms. It's just unbelievable. Thousands of condoms on the jungle floor handed out by the United Nations because the aliens rape each other, right? The rape is coming from the invaders. I'm calling them what they are. We have to use the exact proper terminology when we're talking about things. One of the things that our enemies do so well is capture words. Capturing words is like capturing hilltops. We have to use accurate words. We can't call it, irregular migration or border crisis. We have no border crisis. It's not a crisis. It's a war, and we have no border. I've been across the entire border from one to the other, from Texas, from Boca Chica, where SpaceX is, all the way to San Diego, much of that on the Mexican side, and the entire American side, Went up to Canada looking at that border, which is the biggest land border in the world. Been over at the Bahamas looking at that. China has bought, Bahamas is another border a lot of people don't realize. And people come in from the Bahamas every day, including Chinese. The Chinese are building a huge embassy over there. We just went over and took a look at it a few months ago. They've got a port right off the coast of Florida. You can see it on Google Earth. It's a big port. We went over there. China, and they're also taking Antigua and Grenada. We are being surrounded. There was a frenemy, let's say, ambassador about 10 days ago or so said down in Panama, privately, he told someone that China is just showering Panama with money, but the United States is absent, which we know that, of course. We're basically ceding this territory. You go up to El Salvador, which I was up there some months ago. China built a giant library in downtown San Salvador, which is the capital of Salvador. Got a big old Chinese communist flag flying right out front. I spent half a day in that library built by the Chinese. It's a big brainwashing center. Bukele definitely cleaned up the streets. I would actually recommend El Salvador as a vacation spot, and I would take your family actually. But it's taken by China, right? And so we see this after step through Central America. The United States has just abandoned it. And so the same is happening here in Japan. I'm in Japan right now. People ask me all the time, why are you here or why are you there? They were asking me why I was in Darien Gap. I was in Darien Gap because it's a main invasion route. And I was there before it became that, right? Likewise in Netherlands. I spent so much time in Netherlands because it's vital terrain. And likewise here in Japan. Today, right outside my window, is the Yokohama baseball stadium. They're going to be doing a jab event today. Actually, there's another self-amplifying mRNA jab that's being rolled out in October. They're actually already jabbing some people with it. It's self-amplifying. They're manufacturing it in Fukushima Prefecture of all places, and this thing is absolutely dangerous. That's why I'm here, because Japan, all these different components, whether it's the food war, the chicken factories burning down in the United States, chicken farms, same thing's happening here. Chicken farms burning down. Same thing's happening here with the farmers being knocked off their land. This place is actually being invaded too by the United Nations IOM.
We need help.
Very, very divided.
So divided. Scary.
Really bad.
What gives you a sense of hope?
My family having passion.
To see right here, the chessboard. I've made connections with people from all over the world.
Faith in God. I really believe in God.
Yes, there is hope. Our only hope is in God.
There's a very important movie called The Firing Squad that you must see, coming out August 2nd.
There has never been a better time for the message of hope that shines through this movie.
We are all crying. It's beautiful.
Watch this movie.
The best out of all the Christian movies.
Never give up on God. Never give up on your faith, because hang in there. This too shall pass.
Together, we can save America.
There was a slight break.
Of course, it's for you.
Yeah. Okay. Across the border, I mean, I see Tajiks all the time. I see Iranians every day. I see Afghans every single day, sometimes 200 or 300, even 400 one day, as I recall. I mean, this is unbelievable, the numbers that we see just through Darien Gap. That does not include the other routes that I go to, right? And I want to say very clearly, again, why I'm in Japan right now, it's happening here, too. It's happening to our allies. This is a comprehensive war we're involved in, and the weaponized, quote-unquote, migration is just one component. Food is another component. We're being strangled down on food. I've been warning about this since January and February of 2020. And I've been going to these farms in different countries like Netherlands or here in Japan and watching how these things are being strangled down, right? Now, when the food supplies decrease, the prices go up, that increases something called HOP, human osmotic pressure. The human osmotic pressure is the push and the pull of migration. So as these routes are opened up, and I mean really opened up through the Darien Gap, for instance, between Colombia and Panama, that route is really vibrant now. When I first started going down there, about 2 weeks after Biden was installed, the route was more of a trickle. But I knew that I thought that they were going to open it up. So I spent about 6 months down there, mapping it all out, developing contacts out in the jungle with the Indians and that sort of thing. And so now it's a major route. here's the thing: if you can get to South America, or you're in South America already, you can get to the United States very easily. You just go through the Darien Gap, get on a bunch of buses, and next thing you know, you're walking across borders, Texas or California or whatever, right? But then you're in the United States. Now, go back to food. As we go into these inevitable food issues that are coming, and I mean famines. When I say issues, I don't mean that euphemistically. I mean people starving to death. There's going to be a lot of human osmotic pressure that then push them through these routes. For instance, through the Bahamas and other places that are being developed as major invasion arteries and routes, like Canada. Canada's already gone. I was just up in Canada. Spent about, I don't know, a few weeks up there running around from coast to coast in Canada, looking at the different issues. Canada is already gone, essentially gone, as are big parts of Europe. So the bottom line is we don't have the allies that we used to have. They've all been weakened internally while they're running off talking about Ukraine and whatnot. They for instance, let's talk about Luxembourg. When I first went to Luxembourg, I was in the U.S. Army, and it was a beautiful place. You could let the kids play out at midnight. It would have been perfectly safe. Not that you would let your kids play at midnight, but they could. And now it's about 50%, about 50%. It's gone. I mean, the downtown streets of Luxembourg City, you know, Gerald Patton and the Third Army is just buried down the road out of Luxembourg City. I went there, I don't know, a couple of years ago, looking at Luxembourg, how it's looking now. And luckily the cemetery is still there. But downtown, there's people doing drugs like at San Francisco or Los Angeles or whatever. It's the same thing up in Canada. Again,